true now as it was in Hone's era. It is worth noting that it's easier to take a walk through 19th century Greenwich Village than it is to get a feel for the neighborhood that Bob Dylan called home in the early 1960s. Most of the important locales from Dylan's heyday are gone. The buildings are still standing, but there's no more Gaslight, Gertie's Folk City, Café Au Go-Go, or Izzy Young's Folklore Center. The list of what's gone from 40 years ago is endless. As you listen, you will notice cross-references to other chapters in the book. We've included these to aid your exploration, and you may find yourself simply following pathways through the book based on your own interests. For example, you might be listening to the chapters on Tammany Hall boss William Tweed and hear that he was intimately tied to the 1876 presidential election and Democrat Samuel J. Tilden. Tilden, meanwhile, was the driving force behind the formation of the New York Public Library. Hearing about the library might, in turn, lead you to check out the Astor Library, one of its antecedents, which, in turn, would take you to Joseph Papp's Public Theater, the current tenant and the Astor Library's original home. And you could go on and on from there. The book's 182 chapters are mostly limited to events that have taken place on Manhattan. For the first 3 centuries of the city's history, it was limited to the confines of Manhattan Island. The story of Brooklyn, once the 3rd largest city in America, is touched on in this book. But, alas, the rich histories of Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island will have to wait for another volume. Likewise, some subjects appear only in passing, or not at all. Rather than write a book that was merely an exhaustive checklist, we have chosen instead to focus on certain places, because we feel they paint a comprehensive and colorful portrait of the Big Apple. Over the years, New York has had numerous names and nicknames: Mannahatta, New Amsterdam, Gotham, the Empire City, the city that never sleeps. But perhaps none has had the traction of the Big Apple. Linguistic historian Barry Poppick and etymologist Gerald Cohen traced the origins of the phrase to a horse racing column written by John J. Fitzgerald in the 1920s. Fitzgerald had picked up the phrase from a stable hand. The term originally referred to the size of the purse at New York's tracks. To win in New York was to take the Big Apple. Though the name caught on in the 1930s, particularly among jazz musicians, our modern usage dates to the 1970s, when the New York City Convention and Visitors Bureau launched 2 campaigns that proved incredibly durable. One was Milton Glazer's I Love New York logo. The other revived the Big Apple as a replacement for Mayor John Lindsay's earlier slogan, Fun City. In many ways, it's an apt metaphor. Like an apple, the city has a sleek, tough skin that protects its sweet interior. Or if you're not a fan, you might say it's rotten to the core. But in fact, the experience of New York comes in every shape, size, and flavor imaginable. One simple truth about the city: there isn't a single monolithic New York. Instead, everyone's version of the city is different. Moreover, it's a place that's constantly in flux. In this book, we hope to take you inside the apple, to explore what makes New York not just a great city, but a place where it's possible to discover the whole history of America along its enticing streets. Part 1. The Early City, New Amsterdam, Colonial New York, the Revolutionary Era, and the Birth of the New Republic, 1608 to 1804. New York has long had a romance with its early history, which is often depicted through a gauzy lens of nostalgia. Stout windmills line the harbor. Able-bodied men in tall hats trade beaver skins with the peace-loving Indians, while their wives stand in half-doors, still known as Dutch doors, a gaggle of children at their feet. All of it is overseen by the stern hand of Peg-Leg Peter Stuyvesant, the colony's curmudgeonly Director General. This is not just the stuff of children's stories. The city's picturesque past is even enshrined on its Great Seal, which dates back to 1686. At its center are the arms of a Dutch windmill, surrounded by symbols of the city's economic.